The Frenzied Flame is one of the endings in the 2022 hit video game Elden Ring, where you, the player, become the quote-unquote Lord of Chaos and inherit this flame of frenzy. The purpose of this video is not to give general ideas and contribute to the lore of the Frenzied Flame, rather to talk about the ideology behind the ending, ideas about antinatalism, death, despair, and general themes, since this ending is very heavy on philosophical ideas. Watching other videos about the philosophy of the Frenzied Flame, where creators mentioned Nietzsche or Dostoevsky, wanted me to contribute to this conversation by adding another thinker, so I first and foremost thought about Emil Cioran, because he primarily dealt with these themes.
Ce qui m'a sauvé, c'est l'idée de suicide. Et sans l'idée de suicide, je me serais sûrement tué. Mais ce qui m'a permis de vivre, c'est que j'avais ce recours toujours en vue. Et vraiment, sans cette idée, je n'aurais pas pu supporter la vie. L'impression d'être coincé ici bas, mais je ne sais pas quoi. C'est toujours, pour moi, l'idée de suicide toujours liée à l'idée de liberté. J'ai remarqué que dans la vie, il y a très peu d'êtres qui aient compris. Vous pouvez rencontrer de très grands écrivains qui n'ont rien compris. Des gens qui ont un talent, qui ne valent rien. Quand vous rencontrez quelqu'un dans la vie, comme ça, dans un bistrot, qui est une révélation, c'est un homme qui a approfondi, qui s'est frotté aux grands problèmes.
So Romanian philosopher Emil Cioran stands out as both a bold transgressive thinker who challenged his readers to confront the paradoxical nature of human existence, and as a good example of the philosophy behind the Frenzied Flame and its overall general themes, death, consciousness, and antinatalism. In The Trouble with Being Born, Cioran argues that giving birth in this world is not only a crime against ourselves, but humanity as a whole. So he wrote, "We do not rush toward death, we flee the catastrophe of birth, survivors struggling to forget it. Fear of death is merely the projection into the future of a fear which dates back to our first moment of life. We are reluctant, of course, to treat birth as a scourge, have not been inculcated as the sovereign good, have not been told that the worst came out the end, not at the outset of our lives. Yet evil, the real evil, is behind, not ahead of us. What escaped Jesus did not escape Buddha. If three things did not exist in the world, O disciples, the perfect one would not appear in the world. And ahead of old age and death, he places the fact of birth, source of every infirmity, every disaster." Right, so the philosophy espoused by the Frenzied Flame bears striking similarities to the Buddhist principle that life is fundamentally characterized by suffering. This convergence leads to an intersection with German pessimism, nihilism, which drew inspiration from Arthur Schopenhauer's deep interest in Buddhism. In Buddhist teachings, nirvana is depicted as attainable through the extinguishing of the three fires: desire, hatred, and ignorance. Failure to quench these fires perpetuate the cycle of life, death and rebirth known as samsara within our mortal existence. This mirrors the concept of the three fingers of the Frenzied Flame, which opposes the greater will. In the context of the lands between, where the deceased return to the earthly for rebirth, this process resembles the perpetuation of samsara. Cioran posits that our fear of death and the subsequent anguish we experience due to its inevitability find their roots in the traumatic nature of birth itself. He contends that rather than being a cause for celebration, birth initiates a cycle of suffering that persists throughout life. Drawing comparisons between Jesus and Buddha, Cioran suggests that Buddha, unlike Jesus, comprehended the hardships and suffering inherent in existence. Jesus, he argues, focused more on the concept of redemption in relation to death, whereas Buddha acknowledged the profound impact that birth has on the human condition. According to Cioran, while death instills a fear reminiscent of our conception, he believes that its certainty and ultimate tranquility render mortality both a blessing and a curse. He wrote, "If death is as horrible as is claimed, how is it that after the passage of a certain period of time, we consider happy any being, friend or enemy, who has ceased to live. Say what we will, death is the best thing nature has found to please everyone. With each of us, everything vanishes, everything stops forever. What an advantage, what an abuse. Without the least effort on our part, we own the universe. We drag it into our disappearance. No doubt about it, dying is immortal. Evidently, life is not the staple of hope, but sorrow for Cioran. In this case, he could be considered an antinatalist, somebody who views bringing new life into existence a profoundly immoral and irresponsible act. After all, he wrote, "Not to be born is undoubtedly the best plan of all. Unfortunately, it is within no one's reach." This can also be the case for the last words that Hiera tells us, as we inherit the flame of frenzy.
The flame of chaos has nestled within you. Could you please rest your hand upon me? Burn me with the flame, to make me your maiden. Oh, it burns. My eyes, they're melting. Thank you. I have touched them. The words of the three fingers. As your maiden, allow me to divine them. All that there is came from the one great. Then came fractures, and births, and souls. But the greater will made a mistake. Torment, despair, affliction, every sin, every curse, every one born of the mistake. And so, what was borrowed must be returned, melted all away with the yellow chaos flame, until all is one again. Those who gave me grace howled without words, saying they wished they were never born. Become their lord, take their torment, despair, their affliction, every sin, every curse, and melt it all away. As the Lord of Chaos, no more fractures, no more birth.
After we traverse a sewer underneath Lindell and a veritable abyss, we find on the last floor awaiting us, we found her. There she dispensed unto us the mysteries of her religion after we were seared by the three fingers. This impression of mind upon matter is the cause of all differences, separateness, distinguishment, dichotomy, and division. The votaries of chaos perceive this event of the first cause as the origin of suffering, for they feel separated from true wholeness, and their conception of it here can be nothing individual. The prime mover, the first cause, God, or in Elden Ring the greater will, the platonic demiurge, so to speak. It is the cause of all creation. This is the ideological basis of hiatus genesis of the world story. So within Cioran's philosophy, there is also a deep longing for freedom. He often expresses a desperate desire to be free from the woes of consciousness, drawing a parallel with the freedom of the stillborn, who is spared from the complexities of life. He wrote, "I long to be free, desperately free, free as the stillborn are free." This freedom Cioran yearns for can only be fully met by the embrace of death. Though he describes life, despite its damning nature, as sometimes offering a kind of freedom and distraction from the cursed knowledge of our eventual demise. The Frenzied Flame ending is interpreted according to my own philosophical ideas in a similar way to how Cioran sees life. The Frenzied Flame is representative of a desire to return to a condition of pure nothingness and the rejection of all life. Just like Cioran rejects birth as a cause of suffering, the ending suggests that this is a better state of affairs than the existence of life full of suffering, and is an ultimate rejection of the world. In this sense, it is in line with, let's say, Nietzsche's philosophical ideas, and that he agrees with Cioran in this overall theme of antinatalism. In the Frenzied Flame ending in Elden Ring, there is definitely a deep longing for freedom and the destruction of order and the established world. I believe that the goal of chaos and death is in fact freedom, just like the stillborn is spared the complexities of life. The goal of chaos in this ending is for everything to return to a state of pure nothingness and lack of consciousness, which can be seen as a form of freedom from the worries and suffering of life in this world. However, I sense a strong Gnostic inspiration in the mythology of Elden Ring. In Gnosticism, most simply put, our world is, a prison for a demon believing itself to be the true god and pinnacle of perfection. However, ignorant of the true heaven, it was itself born out, specifically from one aspect of God, the Aeon Sophia. Gnostic faith can be complex, but God has children in pairs representing virtues. So Sophia wanted children herself, acting without the consent of her partner and father. She birthed the Demiurge, a belligerent, unruly spirit, so she cast it away and shrouded in darkness. The Demiurge then creates its own gods, the universe, people. In doing so, though he fails us for life to exist, a piece of the true God's essence was required. Our souls. Our grace. Gnostics believe this was given to us by God. I get a vibe that the greater will is an analogy to this demiurge, and while it might love its followers or just their worship, it is itself stagnant, corrupt, and perhaps at the end of the game it will return to what it was separated from. I mentioned this because I could see the Frenzied Flame as a darkened version of the Gnostic pantheon and their virtues. I see echoes of it in Marika and her children, with their curses and with her rejection of them. I can't wait to see what theme will be, the story of Mesmer and how he is a child of Marika. It is known that, Gnosticism was primarily influenced for Cioran's views. Gnosticism emerged in the early centuries of Christianity, which encompasses a diverse range of beliefs and ideas. Though it fundamentally revolves around the concept of gnosis, which means knowledge or insight in Greek. Gnostics believe that salvation or enlightenment could be attained through acquiring special knowledge, which would entail transcendence. Gnostic teachings purport the material world as flawed and by nature a landscape of suffering. It is in this notion that Cioran held an interest in, believing that life inherently involved suffering. Like that of the teaching of Buddhism as referenced in a previous passage, in this context, antinatalism is an appealing philosophical position, since procreation offers a platform for suffering to manifest. In conclusion, the Frenzied Flame, the ending, or let's say the bad ending in Elden Ring, resonates deeply with philosophical ideas of Emil Cioran, particularly his exploration of antinatalism, death, despair, and the longing for freedom from the burdens of existence. Just as Cioran challenges the notion of birth as a joyful event and views life as inherently filled with suffering, the ending portrays the desire to return to a state of pure nothingness, rejecting the cycle of life and embracing chaos as a form of liberation. The nihilistic perspective echoes themes from the Gnosticism, where material world is seen as flawed and existence is perceived as a landscape of suffering. Through the lens of Cioran's philosophy, the Frenzied Flame ending serves as a stark commentary on the human condition. As we contemplate the implications of our choices within the game world, we are compelled to confront the paradoxical nature of life itself and grapple with the fundamental questions of meaning, purpose, and the pursuit of transcendence in the face of our own mortality. All in all, you have the choice. Become the Lord of Chaos, or risk to live in suffering. Again and again we see that it is those who are forced into solitude, existing as a single entity, who complain the most for life's pains, while those whom exist with others, with friends and family, and greater community, seem protected from such deep despair. To be apart from others is both the source of suffering and the cure, as we found solace in living alongside others, in finding that we are not alone. It is almost, not quite, but very close to the idea that one must know pain in order to find ecstasy.